In this video, I am going to review the most requested bike on E-MTB, the Crestline S180 with 180 millimeters of rear travel. It's going to be a good one. All right, very stormy day here in NorCal. It's already March 12, I believe, and I'm gonna get sunburned and I'm gonna get rained on, so bear with me. This is a bike that's very interesting and I haven't reviewed it for many reasons. The number one reason is it's expensive, so stop. If you don't want a high price bike, you stop watching right now. But expensive, 10 grand is the bottom line, the minimum starting point for these bikes, 160 travel or 180 travel, and there are no price points. So that was my biggest problem. I respect that, hey, limited edition, very expensive, but there's nothing at 6 grand, nothing at 8 or 6. It's 10 grand or nothing. So I had a problem with that. The other thing is it's got VPP suspension. VPP, I felt I had bad experience with e-bikes, that it was too harsh, too much anti-squat, too much for pedaling, and wasn't ideal. It messes with the dropper post insertion length. Oh, another downside where the kind of turned me off to them was I said, oh, they have one bike for one frame for 160 and one frame and the same frame for 180, kind of a do-it-all. And I've had bad experience with do-it-all, do too much jack of all trades before. So I was like a little turned off. But what changed is at least 10 of my friends here in the Bay Area, Santa Cruz, got the bike and had really good things to say about it. I've ridden my friend's bike twice and I'm like, okay, kind of woke me up. I'm like, okay, I better stop holding out here, because it is, even though it's not accessible to everyone, it's a good baseline. So this is the first of many videos. I'm gonna put it in a shootout against all the rest. I have 5 of the most important e-bikes right now. They're behind the camera or somewhere in the Bay Area that I am hiding. The other thing is, so I'm gonna have head-to-head this versus that Pivot, this versus the Orbea Wild. So, and this is about with some unreleased bikes that I have access to already. So it's gonna be very exciting. It's a good benchmark because the travel and what they've done with this bike is very special. Okay. Speaking of special, let's first go through the bike. What have they done here that is exciting? What they've done is the suspension. The suspension, which wasn't working, the VPP, a little too harsh, too supportive, too much anti-squat. They figured that out. And what they've done is they worked with Cascade Components, master suspension. These guys are downhillers. And they came from kind of, I really related to listen to this guy Troydon, where 4 or 5 years ago they saw e-bikes and downhill and all mountain, the great aggressive riding as the perfect combination, but the bike simply did not exist. All my downhill times on my e-bikes 4 years ago did not match my, even the Specialized Enduro. The experience wasn't the same, the times weren't the same, no good. So they sought out to build the perfect descending bike without compromising a lot of other things. So what they've done is they've really worked with VPP. I'm not sure, I think they had a VPP downhill bike and they worked with that and solved the problems with an e-bike. And the problems are a lot more difficult because it's very space constrained down here for VPP. Everything's down here, and then the motor's right there, and then you have a chainstay length that grows as well. Real estate problem, all these issues. To do the kinematics of VPP, as Santa Cruz said, they didn't have the room. So they actually had to go to a smaller motor on their Heckler SL to have that real estate. But these guys, as MTBR users have told me over, they solved it. They figured it out. And they figured it out in a 160 travel bike and a 180 travel bike. When I got on the bike, I was like, wow, this is so supple. This is like supple and bottomless. Suppleness is not really determined by travel, I feel. It's determined by kinematics and the type of suspension you have. And when you get this right, it's like, wow, it is so comfortable. And because of the 180, it is kind of bottomless. You know, you're smooth on the fire road, the ripples on the fire road, and then when you case that jump or you the big 4-foot to flat landing, you're okay. And that's what it really does well. And everything about it is really, you know, the core is about the handling. It handles very well. You know, they solved the weight. The weight is down here. This is kind of heavy. Weight's down here. They put the battery as low as you can, and it handles like a dream. It doesn't have too much anti-squat, so good traction, anti-rise. So when you're going on a catch berm, it doesn't like push you as you're braking hard and kind of done with the corner. And then the jumping is impeccable. This is not a light bike, and I'll show you the weight. I was saying this thing just sends it. You just jump and you're a little higher than you're used to on a big jump, of course, and then on the landing, it'll take care of you. And even though it's a 180 bike, as you can see, it doesn't look like a big bike. It doesn't feel like a big bike. It's not a monstrosity. You know, I sit on it and I'm like, dang, I feel like I'm in the pocket. You know, they do mullet or they do 29er, and you're like, dang, this doesn't feel huge. I can get with it. So tight stuff, it's okay. It's an agile machine for all this travel. So the big downside of big travel is not really here. They kind of solved it, figured it out. So very cool. And another part of this dilemma is the climbing. How is the climbing? And they made this a really good climbing bike. Seat angle is steep, 77 degree, 63.5 on the head angle, and the reach is about 450 and 445 stay. When you do a 29er, which you should if you're a really tall guy, they have a separate rear triangle, so none of this futzing around, and they have a 455 chainstay on that one. And they have a few other tricks like extending your reach by 5 mil back, 5 mil forward, using some special headset, because this is a very straight head tube. Head tubes too are very short, as I find. That way you could put some spacers, do some higher rise bars. You can drop it down or you could raise it. So these guys have been riding a lot, and they know what the problems are with the high travel bikes, and they've really kind of revolutionized it. The other thing that's impressive about the bike is they solved a lot of e-bike problems. When this came out, I think a couple years ago, I was like, wow, they figured that out. So a lot of the issues that are plaguing e-bikes, they solved it. So one of it is they have a removable battery. So they have a big removable battery. Even right now it's 800 or 600 battery. It's bolted securely. It's removable. It's not very quick, but definitely you could drop it off the bottom. You could put an 800 or 600. And you can even use that little battery that they have, a 400, and that's going to sit pretty low if you're into that. If you have just an extender, it will work with an extender as well. So 800 plus 250, you're good. So they got all that configuration. And another thing they solved is the display. The display on Bosch was nice, but it just stuck out here, and so no one wanted to use it. Right? They put a big hole on the top tube, and you can put it right there. The charging port was always a problem, because it would be here when you backed up the bike. It would just rip off your charging plug, your charging port. They put it right on top, so it's compatible with the extender. So they secured everything, secured the cable, secured the battery, 4 bolts on the battery, I think. So they tried to make sure there's no rattles. Now the CX4, Bosch CX4 rattled, but now they have the CX5. And the other problem is 2 rear triangles. It's when you go mullet or MX, 445 rear triangle. When you go 29er, 455. So no compromise there. And then finally the 160 to 180 conversion of travel is done very simply with a flip chip right here. And like once I saw the design, I'm like, wow, they really put some work on it. And I know the guys at Cascade Components, they did them well. They did the bike justice. So and then because of the different shock lengths, you could do 150 to 180. So 150, 160, 170, 180, you could have that travel with this bike. And as far as I know, I'm just testing a 180, 180. There's little compromise to the different travel selections that you have. Bosch CX-5 motor on a Crestline bike. Very steep climb. Let me go in full turbo. And you can barely hear it. Wow. They have 3 products and very confusing, but I'll try to get through it. LS160 is the 160 millimeter bike, so they will sell you a full bike with some options, and this guy is 11,249. It's built with some light spec in mind. 160 rear travel, 160 front travel, and it's about 47.5 pounds at this configuration if you have the 600 battery. And I spec'd it out. I don't like 600 batteries. 11,249 with the 800 battery, I think, is what I found out. They have another model which is pretty similar to this. This is the S180. So the S180 is a 180 rear travel bike. So they built up a bike for you with 184 burly components for that DH all mountain focus, and this with a 800 battery is $10,300. So not cheap. Something that's going on with them is everything is limited production. So 150 units they say for the 180, 50 units for the short travel. Man, I don't know what's the point of this video, right? If it's probably gonna be sold out already. And then the last product that they have is a frame set, and a frame set is cool because that's how we used to build bikes before. You know, put our own spec, our own parts. And in the e-bike world, very few have a frame set. So the frame set with no shock, no rear shock, is 6,749 with an 800 watt-hour Bosch battery. Weaknesses. Before I get to my overall conclusion. So number one weakness is the price. The price, as I suspected, is up there. Everything is over $10,000. Nice that they have a frame set, but it is 6,000. What did I say? 6,700 for just a frame and motor and battery. Insane. So it's not a great value. Not a great value. What we have here is a bougie bike, an exotic bike that is limited production. That's so if you're not, if you're already complaining about normal prices on big manufacturer bikes, this is going to be a problem. So there's no cheap way. Another thing I noticed too, just a footnote, is the display is gone. I think the CX-5 doesn't have a display yet, so these new bikes that they're selling doesn't have the big graphical display, which is a huge upside of this guy. You can probably add it on, and I think Crestline will give you a discount once it's available, but it's not here at the moment. All right, the second big weakness, and this is a showstopper for some, is the insertion length is not that long. So this is a 150 RockShox reverb, and it's pretty much all I can get. I don't think I can get 170 out of it, and it's a big issue because a lot of the e-bikes now that I'm falling in love with, I can do a 200 millimeter dropper. So it's becoming, and I'm 5'7" and height 30 inseam. So 200 millimeter dropper on my Pivot Shuttle LT, on my Orbea Wild. It's just a game changer. The more travel you have, the more rad the bike is, the more you want mullet, and the more you want a long dropper. If you're 6 foot tall or more, it'll affect you less because you have long legs. When you have short legs, you're really limited by the insertion length and the extension length. So luckily there's some manufacturers out there like One-Up Components that will give you better options for very space efficient droppers. Okay, and finally, just really nitpicking is the charging port on the top. It doesn't look that good. I now have a bunch of new bikes where the charging port is right here or down here, and it's better down here, you know, because you'll have the extender cable, and they finally figured out a way to do it discreetly and not be in the way of your crank or pedal. And then this thing is huge. I don't like, you know, these bottom bracket areas that are huge like the old Levo, and this thing is fairly big and it extends out to here. It's like a big mass, not quite like the Rocky Mountain, but there's no denying it's big. One more weakness on the nitpicking side is their naming is not very good. So I keep looking at it and I keep getting confused. So the short travel is called the LS160 Special Edition. LS, that should be the long. The big bike is the S180 Classic Edition. I don't know why it's classic and why it's S. And then the frame set is called the RS Signature frame set. So very confusing nomenclature that they have. Their sizing is called RH1, RH2, RH3. It's like these guys are engineers, and they don't have enough kind of marketing vision to name them properly. Give them some proper names. Finally, the sizes is kind of only 3 sizes. There's no small size, no XXXL size. So you gotta fit in the sweet spot of their kind of size range. And finally, let's get to the bottom line. I've been through all the weather patterns here, and I hope the camera doesn't wig out too much. Otherwise, I'd have to reshoot this. The bottom line is, I think if you think you're rad enough for a 180 bike, 180 rear travel bike, and you have enough money that you want the exclusivity, you want the quality, you want the customer support, it's a great option to have. The guys are not wrong for really raving about this bike. I mean, I only have 5 rides on this thing, and it is incredible. Figured out the VPP puzzle, where they have the suppleness and they still have the climbing prowess of this guy right here. And it's really a delight. The way it jumps, how low, you'll see, hopefully you can see in my videos, you know, how low it is, the CG, and you trust it more and more as you're going into a berm, a corner. It's so easy to throw around. It feels lighter than it is. Now when I lift it to my truck, it feels heavy. But on the trail, I'm all like, damn, it is so agile, and it's capable. It's got your back. It is critical with your rear shock tune. If you're oversprung, they have a sweet spot. They really designed it to be in a sweet spot of the sag, about almost 30% sag. If you're not there, it's going to be harsh. All the things they designed, it's not going to work for you. So make sure you get that right. But when you get it right, and I have ridden 2 of these bikes already, one with very high-end fork and suspension, it is magic. It is so smooth, so soft, so bottomless. So I'm glad there's this option. There's this option, and you're not pigeonholed. You buy the 180 and you want less, you want 170, you want 160. You can go fix that. It's a company built by engineers, engineering downhillers, and they've done it right. And it's, I think it's gonna be one of the benchmarks as e-bike manufacturers look for higher travel, higher performing, better descending bikes. Thanks a ton, everybody.